Welcome to episode 6 of the Behind the GAVL podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Raplee with GAVL Marketing, co-founder, CEO. Hard to believe we are on the 6th episode of this podcast. I know I say it every week, but we are starting to get some viewers, some traction. People are listening. So I'd like to thank you for listening and watching however you consume it. Please feel free to leave some comments. I would love to hear comments. I would love to hear feedback. You can contact me at ryan@gavelmarketing.com. Any ideas on things to talk about, people to interview, people to talk to. This is a very much evolving podcast and everything is evolving. Today is a very special episode as I will be joined by Paul Bamert from K-Status. I've known Paul now for a couple of years. Really smart guy. Has a lot of knowledge on the legal industry, the legal technology industry. He works with K-Status, and K-Status is a legal technology platform that focuses on improving communication between law firms and their clients. Paul works with law firms across the country, helping them think about how client experience, communication, and technology all come together. K-Status is designed to help law firms keep clients informed through real-time updates, secure messaging, and mobile engagement tools that improve transparency and satisfaction. I know for a fact that the technology is loved by all of their clients. A lot of our clients at GAVL use K-Status. We see them all the time at conferences. Really, people love it, and it can really make a massive impact with your firm. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. So why don't we just dive right in? Welcome to the show, Paul Bamert from K-Status. I'm super excited to have you on the show today. We have known each other for some time now, crossed paths a lot, talked to each other a lot, gotten to know you over the last couple of years. I truly think K-Status is one of the best legal apps out there that does something very unique in the industry. And I think you guys do it the best, but we'll get into that a little later. Yep. First, I want to learn a little bit about you. So for the people meeting you for the first time, why don't you just share a little bit about your background and what led you to K-Status?
Yeah, Ryan, good to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, excited to be in the legal space. I've actually only been in the legal space for about 3.5 years, but I've been in technology for pushing 30 years, which is kind of hard to believe. I started when I was in kindergarten. I'm a mechanical engineer by undergrad, so I'm programmed to see things in 3 dimensions and see everything as a system. So I kind of have that technology mind. I got into telecom in the late 90s, went before the internet, was the connector of all things, and ultimately rode into that world and into software mid 2000s. So I've been in the software space, spent a lot of time with a company called Blackbaud that serviced nonprofits. And by virtue of nonprofits, we serviced the nonprofit constituencies, what you would think of everyday Americans. So there's this sort of B to B to C, business to business to consumer part of my DNA of sort of growing up in my career. And so one of the last things I was focused on in that world was around helping nonprofits fundraise and do it online. And how do you engage somebody who's maybe into your mission and interested in supporting you right there at a donation page? How do you get them to convert? How do you get them to potentially turn a one-time donation into a recurring donation? All the little things that make a nonprofit. But again, nonprofit, if you get down to the brass tacks, is delivering a service, an idea to society, and people tap into that. So what attracted me to K-Status was a little bit of the business plan. Originally, when I left, it was funny. One of the gentlemen that I worked with, one of the leaders, said, "You're just going to go and make lawyers rich?" And I said, "I don't think so, but maybe." But I was sort of at a standstill on where our innovation at, and I am sort of an innovation incubation junkie. I've never started a business on my own like you, Ryan, but I have. I've started businesses in larger businesses. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I guess I'm a wuss when it comes to putting my own capital up for the job.
Hey, time is money.
It is. So yeah, I got to know Andy Sievers, co-founder and CEO here at K-Status, and I really liked the energy he had behind the idea. But the idea was very easy to grasp, and for somebody that has consumed legal services in a very limited capacity, right? I've been blessed enough to have a trust attorney for me and my wife and our family, but to go through that cycle, and it's just a bunch of unknowns, and you're kind of like back and forth, back and forth. And so when I thought about injury, I thought about disability, I thought about immigration, and I thought about all these areas where we as everyday Americans consume law. You start to think about how far behind we are as an industry. And I saw that in my assessment of case status, right? What we were doing was not actually very novel in the industry. It was old school, right? I started talking to Annie in 2022. The banking industry revolutionized in 2008. That was 14 years prior, when you started to say, I don't need to go to the brick and mortar anymore. I need to be empowered. I need to have access in the palm of my hand, and I need to do all my banking, on my time and on my schedule. So those things really resonated with me. And quickly I started to realize the access to justice, the idea that society could be better if legal services could be consumed in a different way. And so ultimately, that's what attracted me to what we're doing. Yes, there's the app idea that people like to anchor on, and people like to look at it as a portal, but it's so much more than that, in my opinion.
Well, let's jump back here a second. Let's just tell the folks who don't necessarily know what case status is. Just give us the elevator pitch on what is case status.
Yeah, so case status in its current form is what I would call a client experience platform. So when you get it down to its bare essence, all law firms are in the business of delivering legal services. And arguably, that's like any other business out there. And so what we're in the business of is embracing all the touch points between staff and client, and making sure that it's easy, simple for staff, right? That it's a stellar experience for the client, and that we're using that data to connect the dots behind the scenes so that the staff and the client can continue to have a stronger human-to-human relationship. So that's a lot, right? Like, that's what we do. How we do it is where you and I can spend an hour going into the tech, right? That's where it gets really
so
nerded out. But really, when you get to the bare essence of what we're doing, people don't really realize that. I love the quote of Maya Angelou, which is, people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will not forget the way you made them feel. So that, to me, is the essence of the business that we're in. It's very squishy, it's very emotional, it's very human. But if you can figure out how to use technology to create a more scalable human-to-human relationship between legal staff and the client, then you're onto something. And that's what we do, right? The how we do it gets into the technical nerding out and the app and different things there that we can happily discuss, because the how is very fundamental to what we've tapped into at case status. But that's the essence of what we do. We make human connections, and we make them scalable.
I love that. And, you mentioned before how the industry hadn't changed at, a rapid pace by any means. And you would think maybe something when I first got into the industry, it was very old school. It still is very old school. It took a lot of years before some of the younger attorneys started to gain leadership in some of the firms, before they would realize, oh, okay, I need to change how I do my marketing. I need to change how I communicate with clients. I need to embrace this technology. It's so funny because there's a successful attorney out there, and I can't remember his name, but it was a funny story. Someone told me that he doesn't even have a cell phone still to this day.
Yeah.
Like, the only time he is checking his email is when he goes into the office, or his assistant, I think, maybe faxes him something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just hard to imagine not having a cell phone today. But that is the industry. Mm-hmm. And I will say, though, over the last several years, there has been a boom in new tech. I think AI has played a big role in that. And I think outside developers, people like yourself and other industries that have changed, see the opportunity here in the legal industry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's making things a lot better, because these are some truly injured clients that this is so stressful. They might have just lost a loved one, got into a catastrophic accident. They could be on a respirator. You never know. I've seen a lot of stuff doing some, day in the life videos and behind the scenes stuff. It can be truly, truly traumatic. So to them, it's hard to rationalize how the legal industry didn't evolve to where like medicine is and some of these other things. So I think we're in a great era right now where there is all this great technology. People are coming into it thinking of, how do I make this client experience better? And the law firms, maybe some, maybe not care, but then when they see all of the upside from this, from just a pure, okay, it reduces friction on both ends, client is more satisfied, client gets access to information at a rapid pace, the pace that they want it to be. It's so valuable.
Absolutely
valuable.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, I pull it back to that experience and what we all, you're right, injury especially. And I pray that I never have to talk to the people that I've gotten to know. But I will tell you, all of them care that I talk to, right? And so for me, moving from nonprofit into the legal space, what I have to say is there's sort of a chip on the nonprofit shoulder that we're the most altruistic people out there. We're helping society. Well, I've actually come to a conclusion that attorneys are in that same camp. And I mean, you can just look at everything that's going on in our society, but like the rule of law or the non-rule of law, there's only attorneys that are standing sort of at that battlefront as we look at it. And when I think about everyday Americans like you and me, when we go up and need, representation, we're going up against some of the biggest adversaries with the deepest pockets, right? There is no better David and Goliath story out there. And so injury, totally agree. I've never gone through that. But when your life, you're going along in a normal, right? This is the narrative arc. You're going along in a normal, your life gets completely flipped upside down, right? And now you're injured, you have psychological, mental, physical, all financial, all these problems that just are exploded right in front of you. And so think about it, like you got to go shop for an attorney to represent you against the adversary that's not taking care of you, that was supposed to take care of you in some cases. So you want to talk about a trust leap, right? And buyer's remorse that can kick in right away, and who you're going to find, right? And so if they do make that leap of faith, right, they're not done being trusted in you, right? They've just given you the right to earn the trust at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where that client experience, and again, the beauty of it is most of the attorneys I talk to, they care. They want to deliver justice, healing, and a new normal, right?
We're lucky to be in a circle of attorneys that we kind of run with who are the best of the best.
Absolutely. I mean, I think about Injury Board, those folks that we've gotten to know in Injury Board, right? They're not just practicing and fighting, they're leading, they're in their state bars, fighting for, different legislation, different things like that, but they're also in their communities giving back. You want to talk about philanthropy, right? Yep. So when I think about those folks who are fighting those battles, and ultimately they want something that helps them scale that Maya Angelou principle. And that, that's why they went to law school, right? They went to law school because they wanted to fight for the individual. That's why they ended up in what they do. And so I think the idea of how you get there, that's where it's really hard, right? I want to, but how do I get there? And so breaking that down, there are a lot of challenges. But the good news is that most of the attorneys that we work with out there, what I wanted to say, the justice physicians, they want to heal and they want to help, but they need the means to do it in a modern way. And it's very different, right? That lawyer you cited, that was fine to do it in the old way, right? Most lawyers, right? It was a lot of face-to-face meetings. You had your hometown lawyer, maybe a primary care physician type. Anything you needed, you went to them and they would help you legally. So it is interesting to have to scale and have to fight and be in a competitive marketplace. But the good news is the intention's there. We just have to help them see where they can break through and make it work and bring a lot more joy to their practice, because it's not just about the client, it's about joy for the practitioner.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's the beauty of case status, because it literally helps navigate the entire process of a lawsuit from introduction to conclusion. And it helps both the attorney, because they have an opportunity to give the client all of this information and knowledge through the app, walks through every bit of the process. So that reduces the amount of time attorney and staff have to spend talking to the client. The client is no longer just calling the firm and emailing, hey, I need an update on my case every day. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And when you can give them this app now that they can just go in, they could get information about whatever phase they're in. And then also potentially a video can be in there where you can have a human to human connection. We talk about the human to human connection.
Yeah.
You can deliver that without actually being there live.
Absolutely.
Right. And that the client loves it because they get a little notification, boom, we're just going into mediation or whatever it is. We just did a video shoot a week ago with a client out in Ohio, and the whole point of the shoot was to create these series of videos for implementation in case status.
Yeah.
It's going to be so great for them, but also the client.
Yeah, I think, and that's where, we try to study the client. So one of the terms I've been using since I've been at case status is the client whisperer, right? Because I think that's a lot of where, and again, one of the things that we've talked to you, I know Jason's talked to you a little bit about, is this idea of putting the client, like, don't talk about them in the third person. Let's put them on the hot seat. Let's tell their stories. Let's talk to them and the attorney about these things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But ultimately, too, we're about to launch our second annual CX report, client experience report, where we're doing research, because that's the idea, is right, is you want to get behind what they expect. So I love that you hit on the video, the name, image, and likeness of you as an attorney. That scales asynchronously. Like, I watch my daughter and how she converses with her friends, right? She's going into college, and some of these apps that they use, and I'm not saying that that's your bread and butter at the law firm, but this is what's coming, right? If you're in a legacy law firm that you want to pass down from generation to generation, there's this new generation that's coming up, and the idea of a live phone call, are you kidding me? They don't even want that, right?
Yeah.
So email's asynchronous if you think about it, but the way they're doing video is she'll basically, I'm like, are you talking to somebody? She's like, no, Dad, I'm recording a video. And she'll send a minute-long video to a friend. And then 10 minutes later, she's listening to a 5-minute-long video from a friend. And I don't even know what platform it is. I
don't even know either.
That's how out of it. But you know what? She's looking her friend in the eye. Her friend is looking her in the eye. And they're having this human contact that I haven't consumed it at my demographic, but I have my versions of that as well. Right. And so I think when you get into that idea of, even if it's pre-recorded, even if it, like, you as the attorney, I forget who says this. I think it's Jordan at Clio. He'll say, for the client, it's the worst day in their life. For the lawyer, it's Tuesday. Right. And so for you to be able to have that pre-recorded, that reassurance to say where you are in your stage and to look them in the eye, even though, it helps you scale your humanity. And that's a really cool way to use technology. And again, you're really good at telling the story and doing the cinematography for, somebody like Tad Thomas to get his face in there. But we're a good vehicle by which to deliver that at the right time, in the palm of their hand, in the Uber type style. That's not an email. It's not a text, right? It's there in the app on the most important thing that's going on in their life. And that's really cool connection to be making.
I love that. What kind of, I'm looking forward to that report.
Yeah, we've got some preliminary. So we're shooting for June. We might come out a little bit earlier. We've got some preliminary findings because it's based on doing an independent survey. So we hire a third party that basically goes out to everyday consumers and everyday attorneys that aren't using case status, and we're looking for particular information. We do bring in some of our platform data to sort of have the control variables and some of the other variables, but a lot of the insights just come from that client whispering, which is like, look, we should all be anthropologists at the end of the day, studying ourselves, as everybody loves to talk about the strength of the American consumer. Well, guess what? That's your law firm business. What is the American consumer doing? Are you studying them? If you're not, you're an ostrich with your head in the sand, right?
Data is now the most valuable asset for any business. Data is so valuable. And, even a small business, the coffee shop, you got to know your audience. You got to know who they are, what they're drinking, what they want to buy. It's like, and a lot of businesses fail because they just don't look at the data that's right in front of them, and they don't change, they don't adapt. And now that we're moving into this AI world where everything is changing so rapidly, people are going to have to learn how to adapt at a rate that's never been seen ever.
But that's the beauty, in my opinion, right? I mean, I think about how you and I have consumed in our careers. analytics, right? Dashboards, you have to create a dashboard, right? The dashboard has limitations and it's static, and then you got to give it more data. Maybe you export it to something and, put a different platform. I mean, that's the beauty of the AI era in many ways, is you can start to connect that if you're asking the right questions, you can start to connect the tea leaves. So one of the questions we asked in this one as a teaser is, what's more important, the legal outcome or how you were treated by your law firm? And guess what? My headline is, outcomes don't matter. And no lawyer wants to hear that. You didn't go to law school to not deliver legal outcomes.
Yeah.
And it's a provocative headline on purpose, right? Legal outcomes do matter, but you know what matters as much, if not slightly more? How you were treated, the Maya Angelou principle.
Yeah.
Nobody's building their practice based on that, right? People are building their practice based on how the lawyer sees the legal. Oh, you were going to get a $30,000 settlement, but I negotiated based on this statute and I got you a $50,000 settlement. That's awesome. What is your frame of reference? You've done a lot of these. Again, worst day of their life, it's Tuesday for you. So you know what the outcome is. They've never gone through this experience. So they don't have a measuring stick on the outcome. And so it's very interesting to kind of go into the research and say, if all you're measuring it is on outcome, you can hand them a big check on the end of the day. And guess what? They might be unsatisfied. And guess what? You might not get a review. And guess what? You might even get a bad review. That's counterintuitive, Ryan, right?
Well, that's funny, because I was thinking of time when a client lost a trial, but still got a phenomenal review because of how they treated that family through the entire process.
They cared. Yeah.
They really cared. And then you also see on the flip side, someone who got a massive settlement and they're like, oh, the firm didn't treat me well, I'm only going to give them 3 stars.
Yeah.
Even though they got money that changed their life.
Yeah.
They're still, so that just shows you how important the client experience is.
And that's what we're trying to, again, those are squishy, hard topics, Ryan, like their emotions and their getting into human feelings. I'm a mechanical engineer. You can't build a system based on. So what the beautiful part of the large language models today and, just quantitative analysis of past, like NPS scores, net promoter scores, CSAT scores, these are mechanisms by which to quantify the squishiness, the feeling part of it. And that's what we're trying to, and again, this is novel to legal. It's not novel in every other industry. Every other industry is measuring this. Disney, right? You are with your magic band walking around. You are they are tracking to see how you move
in real time.
And they're translating it to quantitative data, but it's based on, they can interpret what you're doing to see what your happiness is, right? And determine that. So that's where it gets, really interesting is trying to pull that together. And then of course, why do we care, right? A, altruistic, we want to deliver this, but B, right, we're running businesses. And ultimately that's where I love what you guys do at GAVL is ultimately you need the kiss cam to be working for your firm, right? You need happy clients to be mobilized in a public domain. I like to call it the kiss cam, and the kiss cam can go both ways, right? It can go the way of the CEO, right? Getting caught in the act, right? That's the 1-star review where it's like, guess what? You were operationally dissatisfying and the kiss cam got you just the same, right? But you want the kiss cam to catch you with the 5-star review, with that, even if my settlement wasn't right, I left you the 5-star review. I got out there and championed it. And that's the other thing that I'm really bummed about. Not bummed, but it's the really hardest part of breaking through the status quo in the legal tech industry. Because even though attorneys in our survey will admit that they understand that reviews and referrals are the most important thing, the biggest check they write out of their revenues every year is for traditional marketing. Right. Yeah. I mean, I should have gone in that business because it continues to be the status quo. And at the end of the year to, get those billboards and get those TV spots, radio spots, like it is, it's just easy because everybody's done it. It's like the attorney that you just cited before of just doesn't have a cell phone. It's sort of like status quo can get us every time. So, we struggle on that inertia. Our biggest competitor isn't a company. It's the way that law firms think and how they make decisions on how they're going to be operating in the future. So it's a lot easier to write that big check, get that billboard than it is to say, I'm going to invest in a hard thing, which is operational excellence on the legal services side to then get more happy people that will be be reviews and referrals.
That is funny how, some of these folks will go out and spend $3,000 on a nice dinner one day, and then the next they get offered some software that's truly going to shake up their firm and make them better. And then they're like, nah, I can't do that. I don't want to pay that money, So, but once you do get the buy-in, that's when you get, it's one of those things where when you drink the Kool-Aid, but the Kool-Aid is really good.
Yeah.
Then you get super excited and you get customers for life.
Well, and I had a great conversation, gentleman out in Seattle area, Jordan Couch with Palace Law. And I kind of posed that question to him, and he and his partner, that they made a decision many years ago. And I highly encourage, this has nothing to do with case status. It has to do with technology. And so at the end of each year, what they would actually do, because I think that's the interesting thing, you got the alternative business structures that are coming out of Arizona and Utah and whatnot. And then you have the traditional structure, which is, the PLLC can only be owned by practicing attorneys. And at the end of every year, if I'm a practicing attorney, I look at all my revenues and I look at all my costs, and everything that's left over is what you take home, right? And so what they did is they started many years ago what they called a technology investment fund. So even if they didn't have a technology at the time, they put a little bit of that extra money into that technology year after year. And it's not a rainy day fund. It became an investment fund for their business. And so when we started talking to them, that's what they pulled from. They didn't pull from, oh, my 2026 has been tight. I don't know if I want to spend my margin on this, right? Because I'm thinking short term, right? Instead, they made a decision, and this is how like our household is
really
work,
smart,
right?
Yeah,
really smart. And I when I heard Jordan say that, it's like he wasn't telling me that this is what he's like. I'll tell you, Paul, why a lot of law firms have trouble making an investment in any technology is because they don't approach it this way. They approach it within the annual operating year of their revenues and spends, and things are very hard to make decisions on in that given year because we have ups and downs. And so I found I thought it worth sharing because, again, if I was
that's very smart.
Very smart, because then you're pulling from, now you're making the idea, well, we've set this aside to do good things. Is this worthy of that investment money, right? Now you're putting it through a business decision, not an emotional decision. So kind of a fun kind of approach there. If folks listening take away anything, I think that's the one thing I would do if I was.
That's a big takeaway.
Yeah,
that's a big takeaway. Where do you see case status going in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So with what's exciting me about the next part of our journey is part of the intelligence era, and I'll kind of hit on that, but also back to my opening, bring it full circle, is the idea of networking like-minded firms more so that society is better for it. I'll end with that. But on the intelligence side, what I love, and again, you can't do what we're doing going forward, started last year and progressing, if we didn't do the first 5 years of our business. So back to your law firm example, I always joke, when was the phone invented? I think it was like 1876 or something like that. Right, yeah. When was email invented? DARPA, you can go back to 70s, 80s, depending on when you want to strike that pop.
Yeah.
SMS text, 90s, fax machines, right? 80s. Every time we introduce
I'll show you.
Yeah, we can bring some old school stuff.
This is how much of a nerd I am. I have Weaving the Web.
Oh, love it.
Tim Berners-Lee. This is the guy who created the World
What's
Wide
the copyright on that one?
So the copyright on this bad boy is 2000.
2000. Yeah. So, and he was probably looking back many previous decades, right?
Yeah. He's a legend, Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I love being a little bit of history channel here, but ultimately, when we think about any business, when you roll out a new technology, do you dismantle an old technology? Communications. I'm talking purely communications, and the answer is typically no, right? You just keep cobbling new stuff on top, and so ultimately, what I find interesting in the first 5 years of what Case Status was able to do is we were able to get to the Pareto principle of communication consolidation, right? So when we talk about the 4 key values that we bring, one is staff simplification. You cannot simplify the staff's day if they're in email and they're in text and they're on a phone call and they're doing fax and they're doing face-to-face meetings. That's 5 and maybe video calls, right? 6 mediums by which to track my relationships. So what we were able to do with the app that you were hitting on, right? Case Status, if you're not familiar with us, we're anchored in a 5-star app. Go into Apple Store, go into Google Play, and you'll find the 5-star app with tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. And so that app isn't just an app, it's directly connected to your case management system. So when you send a message out of Filevine or Litify or Clio, right, that message sends to the app in an encrypted channel and then back, right? And so not everybody gets on the app, but we do boast about 80% plus adoption into the app. When you break
and I think that's huge.
It's huge. No, you can't.
That's a massive number.
Yeah, you can't do no other technology. And most of the portals that are out there, like a lot of the case management systems have portals. And I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't look at that, especially if it's part of what you're already paying for. A portal, though, it'll probably get maybe 25 to 40% of your folks using it. And that's a good step forward, but you're still left with the majority on the variety of channels. So when you get to 80%, right, in one channel that is in your case management system, that becomes a platform to do different things. You still have the 20% that you have to deal with, right? You got old people that have flip phones. You're never going to get an app on some of those folks, right? And people that just don't want to adopt, whatever the case might be. So when you get that 80% now, not only do you have it simple for the staff, Ryan, but you've got all the data. You've got everything that was written back and forth. You've got all the metadata. Were they looking at the app at 3 a.m., right? And what were they looking at, right? Were they sweating an appointment that's in the app? Like, you can look at all these little things and sort of start to piece the reality together.
Then you can start to be proactive too. I like that a lot, because if you see someone who's stressing about their case at 3 a.m. and you see this in the data, like, put an alert up there, be like, hey, proactively call the client.
Exactly. Wouldn't you want to pour your coffee as a altruistic practitioner, come into the office, pull up a dashboard, and it tells you that Paul was up at 3 a.m. looking at his case. And it already says, like, again, we don't have this yet, but we have the ability to build that out. And it's in the art of the possible in the next 6 months or so, especially as we start to we want to ingest the voice too, all the voice calls, because that then means we have the holistic view in one data set. Once you have that, you can understand sentiment. But yeah, exactly. Hey, Ryan, guess what? Paul was on the app at 3 a.m. You should probably send him a message. Not only should you send him a message, I've already pre-written the message, reassuring him that we're on track, right where we need to be. I know it's tough. I know it seems like a dark moment. Do you want to send it? Yes, send it, right? Imagine the humanity of that, right? Huge. That's where so the intelligence era is amazing. Again, we get into things like predictive sentiment. We're already doing that, where we've done sentiment with NPS, Net Promoter Score, but it's a survey. Now we can start to read the tea leaves, read the vernacular, right? If somebody's dropping an F-bomb because they missed an appointment, right? Red flag. They may have had their last survey 30 days ago, but you can be alerted to where this thing is maybe going off the rails. Again, this is where the squishiness of emotion and humanity becomes digitized, and you can only do it in an intelligence era. So number one, I'll wrap it up because I could go on forever, but anybody listening.
This is great stuff.
Well, think about it. Like my favorite metaphor is, I wish I had this client intelligence running on my freaking personal phone, on my wife and my text thread, right? Yeah. Imagine if, hey, Paul, I don't think that's really what your wife's saying. Like, Paul, this is a moment to be ever present and, to really be, and maybe call your wife, because she's sending you signals and you're not picking up on it, you meathead, right? Like, so every relationship could kind of use that, especially given how we're on the run and doing all these channels. So that's pretty exciting. And again, where people are putting that to play is it's really cool to see that. But the thing that I think gets me most excited about where we are continuing to go is the fact that we've reached critical mass. I mean, knocking on the door of 1,000 firms that use Case Status, and through some of our customers, Panlahaki Giordano in Philadelphia, they have a massive network. And so when you think about this effect of, because in my mind, I think about it, right? You see all the billboards, injury, face, I'll get you the most, right? I'm like, well, I don't have an injury, but you know what? I need a tax attorney. Like, who should I call for tax attorney? Well, guess what? Panlahaki's figured this out. They have, their billboard says one thing. It says, tell us your story. It doesn't say, are you disabled? Call up Pond Lockheed Giordano. It doesn't say, are you injured? It doesn't say, have you need a workers,
Yeah,
it says,
that's
tell
really
us your
smart.
story.
I've seen those billboards.
Yeah.
driving through Philly. Yeah.
So to me, what that really is, and again, my wife's a physician, so I love the idea of paralleling the JDs to the MDs. But to me, that's a very open invitation. And if you've got the setup right, and that's what they've built, is this network of, and it's not just, it's not the Morgan and Morgan model. It's not to say that I've got this network around. What they've built is a network of like-minded firms who are client first, right? And variety of practice area, right? You look at Morgan & Morgan, it's about a network of injury firms around the country that are in there. What they're trying to build is family practice, criminal, immigration, right? Whatever your need is, and if you're in Idaho or if you're in that they can tap that out. And that's very powerful because it gets into the idea of being a primary care attorney.
Yeah, I like that.
And so now you look at their network, but look at our network as well. And to me, the thing, back to my altruism, is the thing that galvanizes the family of firms that use case status is they aren't just saying that they're client first, they're trying to actuate that, right, with what we've been talking about. And so what gets me really excited is when we can make an entry level for the common American to come into this world and say, you know what, I need an attorney. This is the area where I'm hurting. And again, I say hurting, it's not injury per se. I need somebody that's going to take care of me to the best of their ability. And we can help get that to the right practice all around the country, wherever the practice area is. That's where the network effect is to me exciting. Andy's got some ideas around what we can do there. And again, I think it makes our society better because its access to legal is a little cleaner, and you can get to the people that are delivering good legal services as opposed to those that are just sort of doing the lip service or spending billions of dollars in advertising and really are just seeing you as a number to put you in the machine. So that'll take a little bit while to build, but that's kind of a longer range plan that
that's awesome.
Again, lands in the altruism of what I'm in the game for.
Yeah, that's great. And for me as a marketer, any of my clients listening to this and you don't use case status, please do, just to make me happy with helping you gain reviews. So when a case is closed out in case status, you can prompt for a Google review. And for me as a marketer who keeps on hounding all of my clients to get Google reviews, and I have some big firms that have only a few reviews. And they're like, why don't we rank in the map pack? It's because I tell you every day to go get reviews and you don't get reviews. This will help reduce that friction in getting reviews.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road.
That's where it comes full circle. That's why,
totally.
This is Behind the GAVL. We're a marketing agency. Obviously, you guys are great friends, partners of ours. For me, when I look at my marketing cap on this, it's like, this is your review generation tool that is easy to use. And think about it. The client who goes through the whole case is going to be super satisfied because you're worried about client satisfaction. And that's the whole point of using case status. And then at the end, prompts them for a review. Of course, they're going to leave a great review. Yeah. It's no brainer stuff.
Yeah. I think that, on your ask of your audience, I love it, Ryan. And I would say, check us out if you haven't, right? We definitely take seriously the return on that investment that you're talking about, Ryan. So for me, the other play is think about us as a marketing play. I know we're in operational excellence. Everything I've talked about is kind of bedside manner and communications, but ultimately justify the investment in us through your marketing lens. And ultimately, what Ryan just mentioned is what we're trying to deliver, right? We want to build that kiss cam, the number of people out there that are getting loud and proud about your brand. Because again, as the research tells us, Ryan, that's how the hiring decision is made. That's why you as a marketing agency that's got the fiduciary responsibility of helping these firms grow has anchored on that, right? Yep. And guess what? Everybody has good reviews, but you can get so much more because it's a reflection of how many people are happy. And the other part, I would say, public service announcement, even without case status, if you know they're happy, ask. Don't wait till the end. We have lots of studies that show that earlier in the process, you can get the review when they're in the earlier stages. And
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's gold for you, right? To get that out there and to get that added to what people are seeing on the street. And don't forget referrals as well, right? Those are a little harder for us to track, from a public domain, but they're just as impactful. And when you're top of mind, with the good marketing, it will pay off.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you being on the show. I have a couple more rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'll try to be rapid on that response. I'm always long-winded. So
well, hey, so am I. We like to talk. That is okay.
Gift of gab. Yep.
What's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
So I have to go with the short-term one. I never had chicken pox as a kid.
What?
Right?
Really?
Really. And now that I'm 50, I got to get the shingles vaccine, right? Or else, anybody out there?
I've had chicken pox and shingles.
Oh Lordy. I've heard shingles is one of the most
no
painful.
fun.
Yeah.
No fun.
So evidently I'm the youngest of 5, and my older sisters had it together. And then when my brother was a baby, my second oldest sister came home with it and got him infected. This was before I was born. So it went through the house. My mom never had it though either, which is really weird that she was around all those kids with chicken. So I went through my youth without having it. And I guess when you reach my age, you do not want to get chicken pox again.
No.
So yeah, going through that process of catching up. So how's that for
That's good.
It's a good one, right?
Favorite way to unwind outside of work?
Ride my road bike or my mountain bike, man. Get me on 2 wheels that I'm having to grind on. Love it.
Like on dirt in the trails or on?
Yeah, you give me, so got a nice Canyon carbon fiber, finally upgraded, dual suspension, mountain bike. We got some good trails I can hit in North Carolina. There's a lot of different places I'd love to go around the country, but if you ever get north or get near Brevard, Pisgah National Forest, amazing. But I love the road bike too. Problem is I need a new one and my wife doesn't want me to spend the money right now. So we'll
remember, ask for forgiveness.
That's right.
What's let's see. Oh, this is a good one. This is from Mariah on my team, helped put these questions.
Oh Lord.
These are good. What's one habit that helps you stay productive or efficient?
One habit. Actually it is, I work from home, and it's knowing when to stop and walk away. I don't have a commute where you can go through a decompressing away from the office, but I'm in my office here. I've got a space. And when I get to a certain point at the end of the day, I leave work. I always check out, and it doesn't mean that I stop thinking about things. I mean, when I exercise in the morning and whatnot, I usually have the same entry into work. But productivity to me is it's sort of like a musician's, right? Sometimes the most powerful part of a song are the notes that aren't played. Yeah. And so for me to be most productive, you've got to have the right rests in the right measures. And so I've kind of organized my day to sort of be like that. That was a good one. That was tough.
Yep. I need to get better at that myself.
I could have said the espresso machine, which is also really good to have downstairs.
Well, I didn't show you that. I got this. This is all Coke Zero right here. So me and Sweet, Jason Sweet, are big Coke Zero.
You got to get off the aspartame or whatever it is.
It's so good though.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
It's so good. It's either that or this could be a whole thing of bourbon, and that would be good for the podcast. So, what's one place you traveled that really stuck with you?
Oh man, I am. I'm very passionate for Europe. I love traveling and gotten some chances. But I would say my wife and I got to go down to Peru before we had kids and do Machu Picchu.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, not one of the 7 wonders of the world, but I'm telling you, when you're there and you see how, this society lived on the side of the mountain, it's magnificent. So it stays with me to this day. And I hope to get back sometime, but there's a lot of other places I'd love to visit. But that was,
that is funny how you go to a place and it just kind of blows you away. And then you're like, oh man, I can't wait to go back. Yeah. And then you're like, I don't need to go back because I already experienced it once. Let me go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's very true.
Else. That was me with Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world in Mexico. Unbelievable experience learning everything about the Mayans and just how they lived and the whole, so just much like, Machu Picchu. But as soon as we got back to the hotel, we're like, oh yeah, we got to go back there.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking, like, no, I don't want to go back. I want to go somewhere else to experience something.
And that's really what so I think I'm on that wavelength too. I mean, that's the beauty of travel. See things that give you a different perspective or an appreciation. And so yeah, I'm grateful to have that memory, because it was a long time ago, and you might be able to see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right. It's a picture right here.
Beautiful.
So I think about it all the time, and
that's awesome.
How much fun we had. And again, for me, I like to be on the move. So lots of hiking, lots of good food. So it was a good trip.
That's awesome. Are you one of the people, this is side tangent here, but are you one of the people that takes pictures all the time of everything you experience, or do you prefer to just experience it?
I'd rather experience it. So if I meet somebody who's famous, I won't do a selfie.
Same.
I would
unless it's a baseball player where I'm like, all right, I need to,
Yeah, I'd rather be, and again, you have to practice with this, but being now again with kids and growing up, and like when it's my kids, that when we're doing something together, yeah, I've got and the fact that the camera's on the phone, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying to capture stuff. I'm not looking for a perfect, but I do love going back and reminiscing. But when it's something that's maybe more powerful moment, I tend to find myself forgetting to record it because I want to absorb it. Because that's
how I am. I took my daughter to see Riverdance the other day.
Oh, nice.
I guess it was like maybe a week or two ago, and she was the youngest by a mile. She's 6. We're right up front row, and several times people are like, oh, well, you got to take a picture of her and stuff. I'm like, we'll do something. We're experiencing this. Like, you don't always have to record everything and take pictures of everything.
Yeah. No, it's very true. But I took my daughter to a Jimmy Buffett concert when she was like,
oh, nice,
4 or 5. We got dressed up. I mean, I loved the obscure old forgotten stuff, and she was there. And I have to say, I'm glad I got one picture of the two of us, because I look at that picture with such nostalgia.
I did get my one picture. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yep. So you should, and it'll be a flood of other memories when you look at it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for being on the pod today, Paul. That was a great discussion.
Yeah, I love it,
I
Ryan.
could ramble on for hours and hours.
Well, no, we're gonna get you on Ethical-ish podcast, and we're gonna turn the seats and talk a little bit about some of these same topics, but talk about what you guys are doing to really, help these firms do good things in the marketplace. So appreciate the opportunity, Ryan.
I look forward to it. And also, I think when your report comes out, you should come back on the pod and we should go over it.
Absolutely.
I think that would be really good.
Love it.
Awesome. All right. Be well, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I'd like to thank Paul for being on the show today. It was a great conversation. I think we could have chatted for hours. You can tell he really cares about the clients of Case Status, which is the law firms, and also really cares about the clients of the law firms. He comes from the philanthropic side. You can see there's a lot of crossover there, and he really cares about the people. I think he probably has a lot of good dreams thinking about how to make these processes better for everyone, but always keeping the client, the injured person who's going through the, whatever the horrific experiences in their life, keeping them at the forefront. So I think this technology is really important, and it helps both sides, the injured person, injured party, and the law firm. So if you're not currently a Case Status customer, I would highly recommend reaching out to Paul, setting up a demo. It's truly some software that I think is the best in the biz and should be part of the tech stack of any firm. That was episode 6. It has been a very fun journey so far. We welcome any feedback from anyone. I would love to hear some feedback, comments, suggestions. This is very much an open playbook, and it's going to evolve over time. If you have suggestions for guests or technology that we should discuss and look at, I would love to get some of that feedback. You can email me, Ryan@gavelmarketing.com, or just leave a comment on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And please do like and subscribe. It definitely helps with the algorithm, and we would like to get these in front of as many lawyers as possible. So appreciate it. Bye.